I had long suspected my wife's infidelity, and the public relations firm ultimately confirmed it. As a result, our 20-year marriage has now reached its conclusion. The marriage, which has now been in court for a year, is a subject of interest to me. I would therefore be grateful for any constructive feedback you may have on our work. Mr. Watkins, Chaz. I am of the opinion that this is not what you truly desire. I was prompted to raise my eyebrows in response to your statement. Could you please elaborate on why you hold that view? I am aware that it is natural to desire vengeance. However, I also understand that such a reaction is risky and will almost certainly have the opposite effect to that intended. I slowly turned my head to the right to look at Amy, who was looking down and trying to appear insignificant in the conversation. I stared at her for a few moments before returning my gaze to Dr. K, who was wearing an irritating attempt at a benevolent expression. Her smile seemed to be a facade, concealing a flatulence. Additionally, she was lacking the customary wedding band on her left hand. She was an attractive woman, probably around my age, but she had been testing my patience for several weeks. I am confident about Dr. Island. However, I am uncertain about the potential consequences of her actions. Let us consider how Amy's actions were selfish and wrong. Revenge is selfish and wrong, but it is also an attack motivated solely by spite. Amy did not attack you. Revenge would demonstrate to Amy that you are only interested in hurting her back, which indicates that you do not love her or care about the marriage. Your presence here indicates that you care about the document in question. You must have forgotten that I filed for divorce. I am here because the other party engaged in a fight and demanded counseling. The court ordered it, and yet we must work together to rebuild trust. It will be even more difficult if she loses trust in you. What if she decides your attempt to hurt her is too much and ends the marriage? He smiled, and I found that to be an extremely hypocritical response. What are your thoughts, Amy? If I repeatedly duck someone or guess someone else's will, you will give up on our marriage. Mr. Watkins, the most effective form of retaliation is to refrain from compromising your dignity or principles by engaging in a revenge affair. I appreciate your input, but I am still awaiting a response to the question I posed to my wife, Amy. Why have you chosen to remain silent? How can we effectively address the issues that have led to the breakdown of our marriage? If you are unwilling to address the challenging issues, would you consider us even if I were to engage in repeated sexual relationships with 4 other women? Do you consider our relationship at an end, Amy? Mr. Watkins, I ask you to consider this: whether or not you choose to save your marriage, you retain your self-respect. It is imperative to maintain self-esteem. It is imperative to recognize that neither worth nor happiness should be taken from you. It is crucial to refrain from engaging in negative behaviors that are comparable to Amy's infidelity. Instead, it is essential to take the high road and focus on one's main strength, which will ultimately lead to enhanced strength, happiness, and confidence. This approach can be regarded as the most effective form of revenge, as it enables the identification of the underlying issues in the marriage that may have led to Amy's infidelity. In response to the question regarding infidelities, I replied quietly and asked Dr. KS for further clarification. She informed me that she had been unfaithful on multiple occasions with various individuals. Men, but now, if you don't mind, I'd like to shift the conversation slightly. Dr. KS nodded, indicating that Amy was still attempting to ignore the situation. Amy, I'll return to my question, so you may wish to consider your response. I refocused my attention on the doctor, wondering idly whether she would spontaneously combust if she didn't fart soon enough. Doc, you just informed me that I needed to take the high road, maintain a positive attitude, and demonstrate commitment so that we can identify the causes of Amy's infidelity and address the underlying issues. The dissolution of our marriage has provided opportunities for her to engage in sexual intercourse with other men on numerous occasions. Is this an accurate representation of events? Once the underlying causes have been identified, we can approach them in a positive manner, thereby initiating the healing process and rebuilding the relationship. Are you suggesting that her engaging in sexual intercourse with other men is my responsibility? I believe that the language you are using is counterproductive. To some extent, you are also responsible for this situation. Women in happy, fulfilling relationships do not engage in adultery. I expressed my disbelief with a look of incredulity, which she ignored. It takes 2 people to make a marriage work. A marriage can only succeed if both partners are willing to address and resolve underlying issues that may lead to infidelity, trust issues, and a lack of harmony in the relationship. I was initially taken aback by this suggestion, but I calmly interjected to inquire about the rationale behind this assumption. I was perplexed by the notion that there might be hidden or dishonest activities taking place. Firstly, my wife, who claims to want to repair our marriage, has refused to participate in this discussion. Secondly, there are two individuals involved in this situation, and it is essential to consider their perspectives. Secondly, I inquire as to whether it is appropriate to hold me responsible for her promiscuous behavior. I would like to interject at this juncture and state that I believe this is a matter that concerns me as well. If there were indeed problems in our marriage, my loving wife should have confronted me about them. She would then have been able to work with me to resolve them. Would you agree? She nodded, her expression still confused. Therefore, if she chose to take a proactive and healthy approach by discussing her concerns and desire to address those issues in our marriage, and I ignored her or refused to accept there were any problems, I would be culpable. In this way, I was responsible for my role in the continuation of the problems in our marriage. However, if that was the case, her response was to either accept it or not and then decide whether she wanted to end the relationship or keep trying to make it work. As far as I am aware, she was not unhappy. I am not a saint, but she never expressed dissatisfaction with any aspect of our marriage that would justify her ending it. If she was unhappy or dissatisfied with our marriage, her actions absolved me of all responsibility. Furthermore, you are attempting to ascribe blame to me, which I am unwilling to accept. Chaz, if you are unable to acknowledge your role in this situation, I am convinced that your marriage will not endure. I then proceeded to slowly stretch in my chair before rising and moving towards the door. I believe we have reached the end of our discussion. Dr. K.S., if you wish to continue assisting us, please leave me a message before our next session. Provide a detailed explanation of why I should devote further time to our lives together, which, thus far, have been unremarkable and ordinary. Amy and I have been married for 20 years. We met in college during we began dating in our freshman year, but did not become exclusive until our junior year. By that time, we had met at a party and realized that neither of us was in a serious relationship. After several months of dating, I proposed exclusivity, but Amy refused. I thanked her for the past few months and wished her a happy life. She was perplexed. Chaz, what is happening? Do you mean that if I refuse to become exclusive, we are done? Yes, Amy. That is exactly it. I am looking for a long-term relationship. I am seeking a long-term partner, not merely a casual acquaintance. If this is not what you are, I would appreciate the freedom to pursue other relationships and find what I am looking for. However, Chaz, you are at liberty to date others. I am perplexed as to why we must cease seeing each other so that you can date someone else. We have a wonderful time together and are in love. I have dated several individuals and still desire to spend time with you. You are at liberty to do the same and, should you find someone special, I will not stand in your way. If you wish to pursue a serious relationship, I will not impede your progress. I had assumed that I had already found the right person for me, but I was mistaken. I apologize for wasting your time and mine. I ended my relationship with Amy and began dating other individuals during the remainder of my junior year. We occasionally encountered each other at social gatherings, but I did not initiate communication. By the time I reached my senior year, I was dating an Asian woman who was exceptionally attractive, and I was contemplating marriage. Upon learning that she had been accepted to pursue graduate studies abroad, I was unable to express my feelings. I therefore chose to suppress my hurt pride and join her in celebrating. Over time, I began to distance myself from her, yet she did not seem to notice or to be completely honest with myself. I cared about her decision to leave within a week of graduating. I did, however, continue to receive occasional emails from her. But that was the conclusion of our romantic involvement. Following graduation, I accepted a position with a prominent software firm and commenced my career. I was compensated at a satisfactory level and was invited to join the sales team after 2 years. I subsequently transitioned to the development side but was soon recognized as one of the few developers capable of interacting directly with customers. Consequently, I was appointed a project manager for implementations and a pre-sales consultant. I was a valuable asset to our sales team, providing technical assistance in a personable manner to our account executives. My performance was eventually recognized by the VP of Sales, who correctly identified my potential for success in sales. I am currently in my first year of sales, having exceeded my quota by 121%, placing me in a high income tax bracket. I am satisfied with my job, own a luxurious condominium, drive a new car, and generally, I had been living the life of an unattached wealthy bachelor, dating, and feeling miserable. I desired a relationship with someone to share my accomplishments and life with. After 2 successful years in sales, I had the opportunity to meet Amy again. She was a junior purchasing agent at the company I was presenting to and was part of the team that assessed our solution and bid to. The narrative can be summarized as follows: we began seeing each other once more, and it appeared that this time Amy was prepared to commit to a relationship. She seemed to have undergone a transformation, yet the chemistry between us remained intact, so I consented. Within 18 months, we were married. Amy gave birth to our son, Peter, 2 years later. However, I was informed that having another child was not advisable. It was recommended that we terminate the pregnancy, but we were gratified to have Pete, so we resolved to persevere. I underwent a vasectomy, and we relocated to continue enjoying our marriage, each other, our son, and our careers. After Pete commenced his studies at college, Amy and I began to diverge in opinion. She was abrupt with me and appeared to desire proximity to any location other than mine. The once vibrant love life had shriveled to almost nothing, prompting me to consider the state of my marriage. Amy's work schedule was lengthy, and she was not particularly affectionate with me. I am not one to ignore a problem, so I retained the services of a public relations firm to ascertain the root cause of the issue and its subsequent impact on our relationship. I am Dr. K.S., and I am contacting you regarding the case of Mr. Watkins. I believe I understand your frustration from our last session, and I want to assure you that I am committed to assisting you and Amy. I want to clarify that I am not holding you responsible for her decisions and actions. I believe there were cracks in your marriage, but I agree with you that how Amy dealt with them is our primary concern. Please understand that I want you two to be stronger after all of this. I want you to recover from the pain she has caused you and help you both cope with your new reality. Whatever it ends up being, please do not give up on us. I am hopeful that I will have the opportunity to see you at our session tomorrow. I am eager to receive a response to my question, as I am currently unsure of the circumstances surrounding Amy's living arrangements. I am willing to give the doctor another chance, as I recognize the potential value in his approach. Furthermore, I am willing to take the risk of being in the event that I declined to participate in the proceedings and was subsequently ordered to resume the sessions, I would be compelled to restart them. I inquired as to whether the two of you had engaged in sexual intercourse since the inception of this matter. I observed Amy, who seemed to have remained in her seated position since our previous session. I allowed a brief interval to elapse before responding in the negative. Doctor, we have not engaged in sexual intercourse or any other form of intimate contact. I continued to observe Amy, who remained seated and averting her gaze from both me and the doctor. I inquired as to the reason for her reluctance. Chaz, I would like to interject and address Amy directly. She seemed apprehensive but ultimately consented. Amy, are you present to participate in this session or not? I am uncertain as to your intentions. I am bearing the brunt of the responsibility here. As I recall, I was not the one who was evasive and evaded other individuals. I did not desire this outcome. Did you have the same intention? You must either take the initiative or I will bring this to a conclusion immediately. I am prepared to do so. I am willing to participate. The doctor would like to understand why I am unsure why I am being asked this question. I will address any outstanding issues at the end of this conversation. I am sorry, but I am currently staying with a friend, so there is little opportunity for me to engage in this process. The clock is ticking, and I have not yet. I have undergone testing for various diseases. I have also engaged in further discussion with Chaz, who has stated that he is currently unable to engage in intimate relationships. This is not an accurate reflection of our conversation, but it is a more diplomatic and less confrontational representation of the situation. Doctor, could you please clarify whether you are aware of the number of occasions I have had the opportunity to experience a deeper level of affection? Over the course of several years, I have had numerous opportunities to engage in intimate relationships. Given your attractive physical appearance and professional success, I imagine that you have also had numerous opportunities to do so. When I winked at her, she blushed slightly, which led me to conclude that these opportunities continue to be plentiful. However, I have an issue. Setting aside Amy's complete dishonesty and selfishness and their impact on my feelings for her, I am unable to engage in intimate relations with her for 3 reasons. Primarily, I do not wish to appear to accept her behavior if I were to engage in intimate relations with her before we finalize our marriage. Firstly, marriage would imply acceptance of her infidelity, which I am not willing to accept. Secondly, I am unwilling to risk my health. Thirdly, I am unsure of the potential risks associated with her behavior. Finally, I would need to consider the implications of this point. I have already declined her requests on numerous occasions. I have always respected and loved my wife, and I believe in the vows we made. However, she has repeatedly tested the boundaries of our relationship, and I want to feel like the scales are balanced. I would require the same opportunity to assess the merits of other potential partners. This is not a matter of vengeance, though that may be a welcome consequence. Rather, it is a question of equity, fairness, and balance. Would you not agree that these are essential elements in repairing our marriage? Amy was visibly distressed, and the doctor was chewing on the inside of her cheek. She whispered, "Consider her response, number 5. I became impatient with the two of them. "Doctor, how many additional sessions has the court ordered for us?" She looked at me quickly, contemplating the shift in topic. "The court requires 4 more sessions. Chaz, I believe we can repair our relationship to the point where I would consider dropping my divorce petition in the next 4 sessions. Amy, I am surprised to hear you say that. Chaz, I am going to be as frank with you as I can. The only hope for a successful outcome is for us to work together to achieve a balance in our relationship. I am not in a position to make any guarantees, but the only way I will consider dropping the divorce proceedings is if I am convinced that the balance has been restored. Mr. Watkins, I had hoped to have explained how destructive this would be. We have 4 sessions left, and I believe that I will be in a position to make a decision on this matter. I reiterate my question from last week. If I believe that the only way for us to remain married is for me to rebalance the scales by engaging in sexual intercourse with 5 different women on multiple occasions, what are your intentions? Will you feel that you can no longer remain married to me and allow the divorce to proceed? Will you accept it? There was no response, only sobbing after a few awkward moments. I then turned to Dr. Khan's office, which was where we first arrived several sessions ago. What did you tell us was the most important factor in successful C? If we are to succeed, you must both be completely honest with me and. With regard to the aforementioned matters, I would be grateful if you could confirm whether you believe I have been honest with you. Beverly, her eyes widened slightly when I mentioned her first name. I took a moment to observe Amy, who seemed somewhat uneasy. I must admit, I am uncertain as to whether I can provide an answer to that question. Amy, you have not spoken much in these sessions, which leads me to question your motivation for doing so. I agree with that assessment. Would you be surprised to learn that Amy is still engaging in sexual activity? Beverly, would you say that you are Amy's friend? Amy sank lower in her chair and began sobbing quietly. Dr. Karen appeared distressed. What are the minimum requirements for completing the remaining sessions to the satisfaction of the court? Beverly, I'm sorry. What are the minimum requirements for completing the remaining sessions to the satisfaction of the court? I can report to the court at any time if I believe there is no point in continuing the sessions. What will you recommend, Beverly? I smiled as I asked her. She carefully examined my face for a moment before breaking into a small, genuine smile and looking me square in the eyes. She replied, I will immediately report to the court. I recommend that the sessions be terminated and that the divorce be granted. Amy began shaking and sobbing violently. Thank you, Beverly. I extended my hand and inquired, will you call me when our file is closed? I would love for you to be my first. Amy's eyes twinkled as she fainted. The following narrative illustrates the complexities of forgiveness in the context of trust violations. The pivotal moment of discovery, in this case, involved Erica's betrayal. The emotional impact was profound, as evidenced by her emotional outburst and the tears streaming down her face. Her subsequent explanations, however, only served to reinforce the gravity of the situation. Each excuse, in essence, represented a hammer to the vows they had exchanged. She claimed her words were hollow in the face of her actions, as I grappled with the remnants of our love. I wondered if love alone could mend the irreparable. This is my journey through heartbreak and healing. 2 sweet voices called as I watched them. I closed the front door. I heard a few steps on the wooden floor before the two small bundles of energy arrived. I smiled and kneeled down. My daughter laughed before I wrapped her in a big hug. Coming home to see them was always the highlight of my day. Being greeted by two girls who appeared to I believe I was the best dressed, still in my school uniform. My mother appeared in the doorway, wearing her cooking apron, indicating that she was preparing dinner for them. After hugging my daughters, I quickly embraced my mother and returned my work bag to its proper place. "Good day, Chris." My mother inquired about the girls' after-school activities as they returned to the kitchen table, where she could monitor them. "How are these two doing?" "They're lovely girls, Chris." "They're okay, yes." "Grandma," my two girls spoke together. "Are you staying for dinner?" I inquired. "Going home," I replied. "Your father is out playing darts tonight, so I will return home when Erica arrives. She has been working late, and it is uncommon for her to see the girls before bedtime." I replied quietly, and my mother moved closer. "I'll be fine," she said quietly, ensuring that the girls were not within earshot. It is unclear whether there is a significant issue, as she appears distant, but by Friday night, she was back to her usual self. Is she ready for a more challenging position at work? She is aiming for a higher position at work. Is it stress? How do you feel about your days now that the girls are at school all day? I find things to do. I am glad I stopped working part-time. The time spent volunteering for a few hours seems appropriate. It is then time to collect the girls. Their father earns a considerable income, so the money I earned was simply for leisure or to save. How is their father doing? Their mother gave a discreet smile, still upset. He has approximately 10 years until he can retire, but I ensure that he is well cared for at home. He remains busy, but he will probably play darts tonight and golf tomorrow. On Sunday morning, I expressed my approval of his occasional visits to the pub to socialize with friends. Erica arrived slightly over an hour later. My mother had already departed for home, and the children had eaten and bathed by that time. They were both asleep in bed while I read them a story. When she arrived at the girls' bedroom door, as twins I had presumed that the twins would desire to share a room for an extended period of time. I observed my wife engaging in displays of affection with our daughters. I was aware that they were disheartened by their mother's departure from their bedside in the early morning hours and her subsequent return at a considerably later point in time than the rest of the family. Her daily commute to and from her place of employment in the heart of Sydney entailed a considerable investment of time. Erica was particularly inconvenienced, as there were few buses or trains available. She was therefore compelled to drive. She placed the plate in the oven and poured some wine before sitting next to me on the sofa. I was gratified to observe that she leaned on me while eating, and that she kept the TV volume low so that we could discuss our day. I observed that she consumed her meals in a relatively short period of time, so I inquired if she had lunch. She smiled and kissed me on the cheek after cleaning her mouth. I typically consume something to eat, my love. However, I am extremely busy. Everyone has their eyes on me for the upcoming promotion. When will you find out? They replied, at the end of next month, so approximately 6 weeks. She expressed concern for my well-being, noting the late hours I was working. She turned my face towards her and kissed me before embracing me tightly. When I secure the position, I will gain insight into the extent of the work hours. Despite the demanding schedule, I cherish my family, including my young daughters. I am confident that the long hours will eventually pay off, and I eagerly anticipate the rewards. A barbecue is scheduled to take place shortly. It has been a considerable period of time since we have hosted all of our friends, and the weather is expected to be conducive to using the swimming pool. She expressed her approval, suggesting that it was an excellent idea. There will be a group of friends and their children in attendance, as well as some family members. It promises to be an enjoyable occasion. It has been some time since we have held such an event due to the onset of cold weather. We will inform everyone tomorrow about the plans for Saturday. In the following week, I will leave work early to assist in acquiring the necessary resources. I will coordinate with the other participants via text message to determine who can attend. Despite initial reservations, Erica addressed and resolved any potential concerns that evening. Our closing time was still within a reasonable range, so I was not overly concerned about her actions. The issue of limited time spent at home, particularly on weekdays, was a significant challenge. Erica's work schedule often required her to be away from home during the day, leaving minimal opportunity for family time. Our daughters missed their mother's presence, and it was evident that they also missed her attention. Upon Erica's return on Friday night, I informed her of our plans for a barbecue. She expressed satisfaction with the idea. We proceeded to determine the necessary provisions. I would assume responsibility for the barbecue grill, while Erica would prepare salads and other light refreshments. We would provide beverages for the adults and soda for the children. The following weeks passed rapidly. The girls were accustomed to their mother's extended work hours and demonstrated no signs of distress. However, they exhibited appropriate behavior when their grandmother assumed their care. Despite their excitement, the girls behaved well when their mother returned from work in the afternoon. They ate dinner, took a bath, and relaxed before bed. Their mother, Erica, always returned in time to give them a hug and kiss before they fell asleep. As a result of the increasing workload and stress, Erica was becoming increasingly tired each week. I attempted to provide her with the assistance she required. She was in need of physical and emotional support, including hugs, kisses, and affection. Additionally, she sought intimacy in the bedroom when she desired it. A few days prior to the weekend gathering, Erica informed me that she would be leaving work early on Thursday to allow us time to shop and prepare for the event. My mother was amenable to assuming responsibility for the children's care. Erica and I perused the store for a considerable duration, holding hands in silence. She gazed at me and smiled, conveying her positive sentiments. She asserted that the forthcoming gathering would be enjoyable, and that it had been a considerable length of time since she had seen our acquaintances. The subsequent week unfolded in a manner consistent with the norm, which was an acceptable outcome. This afforded me the opportunity to spend time alone with our daughters. My mother takes pleasure in caring for them in the afternoon, and as I am her only son, she greatly enjoys our visits. My sisters are both younger and still focused on their careers. We do not see them often, but they frequently text or call me, even though we do not meet in person. On numerous occasions, our visitors arrived on the morning of our special day. I awoke to Erica by my side, gradually rousing and smiling. However, any leisurely time in bed was abruptly concluded due to our daughter's newly acquired ability to knock and wait for us to indicate it was safe to enter. They entered the room, giggling and climbing onto the bed. Erica kept them engaged. While I proceeded to take a brief shower and subsequently escorted the girls to the kitchen for breakfast, allowing Erica to shower next, we spent the morning setting up. The girls were visibly delighted to learn that, although they did not yet have any cousins, some of my friends had children of a similar age. Additionally, Erica's friend, a single mother with 2 children, was a source of joy for them. As family and friends began to arrive, I was able to interact with them in a more relaxed setting. I had developed a close relationship with their parents, who treated me as if I were their own son. This was particularly significant given that they had only Erica and her younger sister before being told they could not have any more children. They expressed great affection for caring for our girls. However, there was one notable exception: they did not assist my mother. This was due to the fact that my in-laws are employed full-time, but they occasionally provide childcare services. I had the opportunity to spend time with a few of my high school friends who were visiting. Erica maintains contact with 3 close friends, one from primary school, one from high school, and one from university. Erica's high school friend Angela was the first to arrive. They met on the first day of high school and have remained close ever since. Angela came in with her 2 young children, who gave me a shy smile before running off to play with my daughters. Angela kissed my cheek, and I hugged her to express my affection and inquire about her well-being. I had the suspicion that Angela was struggling because her ex, the girl's father, her husband, was not particularly helpful. He did not treat her well. I have never been unable to keep a job. He did not contribute much financially to the upbringing of the children. He always assumed that everyone was out to get him. It could be worse. "Chris," she said, sipping her wine, "how are things going here?" "It is rather chaotic." "Are the children being unkind to you?" "Not really. They are adorable children. They listen to their mother. It is nice to come home to them. Erica is still working a lot. They continue to tease her with a higher position. I hope it gets resolved soon so we know. In regard to her position, I am uncertain. With regard to your own position, I am similarly uncertain. In regard to new developments at work, I am aware of some, but I am not privy to all. In regard to the attention I am receiving from male colleagues, I am aware of it, but I am not inclined to reciprocate. I am considering joining the ladies' team, but I am aware that women can be equally as competitive. I am aware that women can be equally as crazy. I am considering quitting the game and becoming a nun. We previously laughed at the thought of her becoming a nun because she was open about her love for SEC. After a few drinks, she tended to choose the worst men. Her ex is the most obvious proof. I am primarily concerned with my own position, but moving up at work would be beneficial. If you require anything, I am available. You are aware that I am available, not merely Erica. She gave me a brief embrace before proceeding to engage with the others. Erica takes pleasure in hosting, extending invitations to enter through the side gate. Claire arrived next. She and her lifelong friend, established during primary school, have remained close since sharing a table in second grade. They attended the same high school and university. CLA was unmarried with no children. She was previously engaged, but the relationship concluded when she discovered his infidelity, not just one instance, but numerous instances. Some of them were accepting of this. However, Claire and 2 others informed him to leave. I appreciate her approach, approaching me with a drink in her hand. I embraced her firmly, assuming she was a reliable friend, similar to Angela. She then inquired, "Could you assist me?" I replied, "Of course." She continued, "I'm aware you're adept at automotive repairs. Could you inspect my vehicle before I bring it in? I'm uncertain if it requires maintenance." I agreed, "Certainly." She then asked, "What specifically concerns you?" I responded, "Nothing." She continued, "It's relatively new, but as a single woman with limited automotive knowledge, I've heard alarming stories about being duped. At what point should a checkup be scheduled? I will be able to stop by and examine the vehicle in the afternoon. It should not require extensive repairs, perhaps only an oil change and minor adjustments are necessary. It would be prudent to check the brakes and tires. Thank you, Chris. Erica will be pleased. She will come and give you one of those big kisses that make everyone else jealous." I laughed, knowing she was correct, and hugged her again before she moved on to where Angela was speaking. I was preparing the meat for a big barbecue when I noticed a familiar face. Josephine did. It was not akin to being addressed by her full name when we initially encountered one another. She informed me that only my mother refers to me as Josephine, and she is aware that such a practice causes me discomfort. She was of a diminutive stature and barely reached my height of 6 feet, while I towered over her at over 5 feet tall. Her sandy blonde hair, which she frequently altered, was a stark contrast to her blue eyes, which were often obscured by her glasses, which she changed annually. She possessed an endearing nose and a penchant for bright lip gloss or lipstick. She was notably pale and disliked the sun, citing its tendency to cause her to burn. "Hello Josie," I said, setting down the barbecue tools and turning to embrace her. "Hello back at you," she replied as we embraced. "I really like Josie," she continued. She was the most intelligent woman I knew. I did not inform my wife of this, of course. She was also extremely sweet. She was the same age as my wife and her 2 friends, but slightly younger than me. However, she still appeared very young. Sometimes she was too nice for her own good. She was also a sad tale in some ways. On the day she cried to Erica on the phone, I drove to her house and had to deal with the situation. Given the circumstances, I was ultimately compelled to spend the night in a police cell. My wife did not express any anger towards me. Jose expressed gratitude towards me for the entire year. After a period of time, I only spent 1 night in a cell. Her former partner was required to appear before a judge to answer for his actions. He was instructed by the judge to refrain from contacting her in any way. In order to pass the time, I inquired about the Jose is in possession of a wine glass. It is my contention that such items help to maintain mental acuity. If I am not present, I engage in activities that facilitate relaxation at home, contemplating the prospect of pursuing romantic relationships once more. I have attempted on a few occasions in recent months, but have not experienced success. There is a perception that a woman who is intelligent and successful in her chosen field may deter potential partners. She took a sip and may have been I was intimidated by a diminutive woman who also enjoys sexual intercourse. I nearly choked on my beer and coughed as she patted my back. Jose warned me that the next time I gasped when she laughed, I should be prepared for the consequences. I am particularly fastidious, and I am aware that these men did not get to find out. You are aware of how particular I am. Chris, do you know if any trouble arises? You know who to call. I am still grateful. For what you did, he is fortunate that I did not kill him. We had a splendid afternoon. We ate a great deal of food and drank a great deal of water as the weather became hot and sticky. Later, we all ended up jumping into the pool despite having 2 children. My wife looked stunning in her swimsuit. Angela was somewhat self-conscious. Although she was conscious of her appearance, she still wore her swimsuit. Jose made me laugh by suggesting that it might not have been the optimal time for tiny swimsuits and speculating on how the guys would react to that. He might have been correct, as the kids fell asleep a little later than usual. The living room is very cozy, and we didn't stay up very late because our party started shortly after afternoon. It was great seeing our friends and family, and I kept looking at Erica, feeling as if she desperately needed this break. I was right there with Erica, counting down the days until she got her job news. As the days passed, she appeared to as time passed, I found myself increasingly absorbed in thought. When she was present, I made every effort to improve her mood. She did appear grateful, displaying affectionate behavior on occasion. However, she also seemed to be lost in thought, and I was able to empathize with her situation. Fortunately, I was able to temporarily detach from work-related matters. Erica did not bring work-related items home when I left. It was evident that she was still contemplating the situation. Then, on a Tuesday night, events began to unfold. Erica called to inform me that she would be late. She had missed putting our daughters to bed on a few occasions recently. I made sure not to let it affect the girls. I attempted to maintain a calm and collected demeanor, but Erica's behavior was a cause for concern. I was spending an increasing amount of time at home, relaxing. My phone buzzed, and it was Jose. Hello, Jose. What's going on? Hello, Christopher. I'm good. You're doing well, too. Erica is not yet back, but since you're calling me, I'm guessing you already knew. I'll say it straight, Chris. She hasn't mentioned her new job in quite some time. Nope. It would seem that she is taking the steps she mentioned, namely, a higher salary and a more prominent position. She may even retain the same hours and travel to some extent. We may therefore have to adjust our expectations. She was silent for a moment, and then Chris said, I'll stop by tomorrow after work. We need to talk. Angela and Claire are getting. I was perplexed by the sudden desire of 3 of my wife's closest friends to meet with me. I inquired as to the reason for this unexpected gathering. Jose responded with a negative, and I continued, however, there are some matters that require our immediate attention. It is imperative that we discuss them in person, as we cannot conduct such a conversation via telephone. I then apologized, stating, unfortunately, something has arisen that requires my immediate attention. Furthermore, it is important to be aware that I will be arriving at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. I will be accompanied by the others at 6 p.m. I will prepare food, and the girls will enjoy it. Chris, regardless of what we say, it is essential to understand that we all hold you in high regard. I take a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of unease. Jose, Angela, and CLA were all close. However, Jose and I were particularly close, not just another friend of my wife's. When Erica returns tonight, I will act normal, but I have a feeling that bad news is on the way. It is going to be difficult. Perhaps we can be trusted. We will explain everything thoroughly tomorrow. For some reason, I did not mention her 3 friends. Upon Erica's return home the following day, I was not surprised when she informed me that she needed to work late. My instincts were aroused, indicating that she was undoubtedly engaged in some form of clandestine activity. However, there was no concrete evidence that she was actually unfaithful. I had conducted extensive research on the common indications that she was still as effective and loving as ever, included her infrequent refusal to engage in leisure activities with me. After Erica departed for her place of employment, I inquired of my mother whether she could care for the girls that evening. My mother did not inquire about the specifics of my activities, as I simply informed her that I would be occupied. The girls were enthusiastic about spending a school night at their grandparents' residence, and they assisted each other in packing a bag for the occasion. As my mother drove over to collect them and take them to school, I could discern that my expression conveyed a certain level of distress. My mother embraced me with great affection before leaving with the girls, who were momentarily distracted. While I was at work, my boss eventually appeared in the doorway of my office and sat across from me. We were dealing with approximately a dozen projects, half of which were related to work for the state government. We engaged in a discussion that lasted approximately half an hour. "Chris, I've never seen you so distracted. Is there anything I can help you with? I will ascertain the information this evening." He averted his gaze before refocusing on mine. "Domestic issues. I am unsure if that is what occupies my time. I do not believe that is the case. However, is it not typically the husband who is the last to know? It is unfortunate. I admire your wife. She always appears elegant on your arm at our events. It is my hope that I am not preoccupied with anything other than the possibility that I am worrying unnecessarily. I have a dinner engagement with a couple of friends this evening. I am preparing for the worst-case scenario. What if she is?" I let out a deep breath. I have not planned that far ahead. Our daughters are just 5 years old. I do not want to provide them with a broken home at such a young age is, at the very least, being given custody more frequently these days. Consequently, I am confident that I will not be a weekend father. I took another deep breath. We made promises and discussed remaining faithful, but when it happens, I have always wondered how I will deal with it. A temporal miscalculation may be forgiven, but the same cannot be said for a poor decision made under the influence of alcohol. Some individuals are capable of moving on from such missteps, while others are not. In-depth discussions would be necessary to rebuild trust, which would undoubtedly be shaky. It would be a whole affair, as an affair is a significant breach of trust. If I were to become enraged, I would likely cry a lot and act as if it were not real, even with proof. People behave in their own way, and I hope it is nothing major. Unfortunately, cheating is far too common here, as evidenced by the number of people who have split up. I hope you do not end up like that, especially with your young daughters in mind. I am grateful to you, Dave. If you must depart prematurely, then do so. We are aware of your schedule. I left work an hour earlier than usual to have some time to myself at home. However, being alone in a quiet house may not have been the optimal decision. After a while, I took a shower, played some music, and began preparing dinner before Josie and the others arrived. They all arrived at approximately 6 o'clock. The time is 12 a.m. As I embraced and kissed them, I was struck by a chilling sensation. I served them wine before we commenced our repast. We engaged in a brief discussion at the table. I was consuming a beer when Josie interjected. Claire had grasped my hand with remarkable tenacity. "Chris, what information has Erica divulged about her new position?" Josie inquired. She proceeded to relay a portion of the details to me. She informed me that she would be reporting directly to the top executive. Her schedule would remain largely unchanged, with the exception of potential travel requirements due to the executive's extensive travel schedule. In the international context, I anticipate engaging with a greater degree of emotional and childlike content, relying heavily on our parents for guidance. However, this is not the entirety of the matter. Angela stated, her tone indicating distress, that Eric has been communicating with us extensively, particularly following your gathering. While Eric is not engaging in infidelity, the information I am about to convey remains challenging. He is accepting a new position, commencing at the end of the month. He intends to request an open marriage, which he believes is referred to as ethical non-monogamy was a surprising revelation. Erica had never discussed this with us, we had never considered including anyone else in our private moments. I finally inquired about her motivation for pursuing this arrangement. She believes she will end up with her boss, who has essentially informed her that this is part of the job. We have also heard that Erica was aware of this when she accepted the position. CLA added that she hoped she could make you comfortable with it. She believes it is her job or nothing, and she is willing to do anything for her career. I leaned back and exhaled, feeling Claire's support. She placed her hand on mine so that she could speak with you and ascertain your opinion. I inquired as to whether we could persuade her to reconsider her decision, given the potential consequences. Jose offered that she was convinced you would embrace the concept of an open marriage, viewing it as an opportunity to engage with a diverse range of individuals. However, he also highlighted that she intended to prioritize spending time with the children, suggesting that she might seek external relationships. Angela then interjected, emphasizing that she believed you would not leave her due to the children. I surveyed the table, noting the palpable tension. I inquired quietly, does she truly desire to remain with this individual? I had met him on a few occasions at her professional events. He is not particularly attractive, and he is considerably older. Jose took a deep breath after hearing Erica's account. He then revealed that his wife does not object to the arrangement because she has a similar dynamic in her own marriage. She is a prominent figure in another company and enjoys interacting with both men and women. I murmured, it is unlikely that informing her that her husband is unsuitable would result in a change of heart. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Eric has discussed the matter with her on several occasions, and his wife is supportive of the arrangement. After dinner, Jose explained that he had cleaned up and that they had moved into the living room, where he had poured a glass of wine for the women and a beer for himself. Jose sat close to me on the couch while Angela and CLA chose armchairs. CLA stated that they informed Erica of their opinions but were unable to dissuade her. They expressed their willingness to assist, but emphasized their support for Jose. Jose spoke gently, holding my hand. I am uncertain of your subsequent actions following Erica's disclosure, but I wish to inform you that there is a woman present who is prepared to offer support. Who would never prioritize her job over her family and you. I turned to face her, and she stared at me with such intensity that I was compelled to take a deep breath. Do you comprehend what I am attempting to convey? Jose inquired. It is as if your wife desires to discard you, a multitude of women will readily embrace you, cleanse you, and demonstrate their affection. She said, yes, and we are aware that Jose will assume a leadership role while simultaneously discouraging others. Angela responded with a laugh, Erica is a close friend of ours. Terminating years of friendship will undoubtedly be challenging, but that does not preclude the possibility of maintaining our friendship with her. Claire added, so, when is the confrontation scheduled? She is reluctant to divulge the information prematurely, as she is concerned that it might create an awkward situation. She plans to deliver the news on Sunday, after which she will leave you to process it. Given her busy schedule, it is unlikely that she will be able to immediately transition into a new project. Angela suggests that you might simply not. Jose responded in a soft, smiling tone, there is no obligation for us to engage in sexual intercourse, Chris, but I would be delighted to visit and keep you and your children company. Angela let out a laugh and stated, I will engage in sexual intercourse, but not the rest, which caused us to laugh. We conversed for approximately an hour, discussing a multitude of topics, though we did not reach a consensus on many of them. Erica will be leaving on Sunday night, and the situation will evolve from there. Angela and CLA departed first, embracing me with a level of intensity that was unusual for them. Jose lingered for a few moments before walking me to her vehicle. He commented, she is foolish, as we approached her car. He then added, but she believes your affection for her is profound. Would you tolerate this? Perhaps you would, but it is crucial to remember. Chris, you are a suitable partner. It is crucial that she does not neglect her responsibilities as a mother. My advice is to maintain comprehensive records. Once you can demonstrate that you are the primary caregiver for the children, you will have a better chance of keeping them. The era of women only having children is long gone. I hope she. Jose exhaled and nestled against me, and I reciprocated the embrace. I could discern her profound affection for me that night. Upon my arrival at her residence, I sensed that she held a modicum of regard for me. Subsequent to that, she will not Chris. She postulates that I will acquiesce solely because I hold a profound admiration for her. She counseled that my optimal strategy would be to concede. One must be prepared for the consequences of one's actions. There are numerous women who would be delighted to be with you, including her. She leaned back, smiling. Should she say anything on Sunday, please inform me, and we will meet for dinner on Friday. It is important to demonstrate to her that what is acceptable for her is also acceptable for you. I will not tell her that it is, I will allow you to do that. Chris, I will provide further information at a later time. Currently, your focus should be on your marriage. Attempt to persuade her to reconsider her position if possible. If this is not successful, please contact me. I am merely stating that she will allow you to leave. I wish to be present to support you. I could not stop smiling. Thank you, Jose. Chris, you are a commendable individual. You are an excellent husband and father. I do not believe that. She is aware of the potential consequences of her actions. She is caught up in the excitement of a secret plan, which I believe has been in the works for several months. It is understandable that she has been on edge. She is fearful about this new plan, but her primary concern is for herself. I was in bed when Erica arrived home. I feigned sleep. Due to my desire to avoid further discussion, she retired to bed without attempting to rouse me. She remained unaware of my continued awareness throughout the remainder of the week. My mind was preoccupied with the situation, and I attempted to maintain a normal demeanor, focusing on the girls. I must have been adept at feigning composure, as despite Erica's evident distress, I remained calm in her presence. However, my perspective of her has since undergone a transformation. However, she had not yet articulated her feelings. My sentiments remained unchanged until she articulated her vision of me as a wife and mother. Perhaps I was clinging to an illusory hope. I believe Jose and Angela were mistaken, but they were not the type to encroach upon the sanctity of another marriage without just cause. I was aware that they were being truthful. This was the stinger. Erica had been conversing with her friends prior to approaching me. Given the potential consequences, I could comprehend why she would do that, but they informed me before she did. On Sunday night, the truth was revealed. The dinner was simple, akin to the kind one would have when nobody feels like cooking. The children were present. I retired for the evening at an appropriate hour. Before retiring for the night, I read the children an additional story. I was concerned about the potential for significant disruption in their lives in the near future. I observed that Erica was already at the table with a glass of wine in hand. "Chris, I have something to discuss with you," she began. I have been known to respond to such a statement with a degree of trepidation. My phone was recording, and I was prepared for whatever might transpire. I instructed her to sit down, and she did so without delay. She immediately acknowledged the situation's gravity, and I was aware that further debate would be futile. Her occupation involved securing our approval, including that of our family. It was evident that my opinions held little sway. She proposed a compromise, but her demeanor suggested she was not entirely sincere. "I will take care of the children while you engage in leisure activities. I accept that arrangement. I desire this outcome, but it is not solely about my employment. I also seek enjoyment." That is a commendable sentiment. If you truly require a boost, we can consult with him and his spouse. That suggestion caught my attention. Laughing, "You seem to believe that I desire to converse with the individual who is pursuing my wife and his disagreeable spouse. I would like to offer a more nuanced perspective. Erica, should I encounter him, I will neutralize him and ensure his permanent absence, much like I did with Jimmy." She appeared perplexed about who that was. "It seems that you have already made a decision and are unconcerned about my opinion. If you proceed with this course of action, Erica, the dynamic of the family will undergo a significant transformation. You have already demonstrated a lack of commitment to your role as a mother. As a wife, you will be missing out on a crucial aspect of your role if you continue to pursue this course of action. Our daughters still love me, but they are young and easily influenced. Their mother is no longer present, and it appears that this will be the case indefinitely. What are your thoughts on this matter? One might inquire as to the probable response of the judicial authority should we engage in discussions pertaining to the custody of our children." Her eyes widened, indicating that she had not previously considered this possibility. "Might I inquire as to the seriousness of your position? I was the one who initiated the divorce proceedings, not immediately, but after a period of time had elapsed. While I am reluctant to see our daughters come from broken homes, I am nevertheless of the opinion that it is the fathers who are the primary movers in such cases, and who consequently see their children less frequently and are less able to provide financial support. The current system, which provides lower compensation and support for fathers, is undergoing a transformation. While there are no clear-cut rules in place, there are indications that the playing field is beginning to level for some fathers. I am committed to advocating for our daughters." She took a long sip of wine, acknowledging the gravity of my words. Our marriage was on the brink of collapse. I was prepared for whatever came my way. I was determined not to break down emotionally. I was enraged after hearing what her friends had told me. I have been trying to stay calm. I can say with honesty that the only reason I haven't lost it is because I don't hit women. My parents taught me a valuable lesson that I still recall from that night at Joss. I will let you. Erica finally stated that this was an unstoppable process and that it was inevitable. She expressed her desire to proceed with the situation and to maintain her role as a loving wife. She made a disapproving noise and departed from the scene. It is unclear what Erica did subsequently. When I was alone, I sent a note to the 3 women containing the tape. The following conversation took place. Jay, call me tomorrow. Chris will resolve the issue because she is misguided. Attempt to communicate with her. We will inform you of any developments, but as previously stated, she may not concur with our perspective. Jay, will you relay this information to others? I will handle it independently, but I would have to inform my mother. Because she cares about our daughters, informing Erica's parents could result in the dissolution of our marriage. However, I could not foresee the marriage's longevity. Attempting to halt the situation seemed futile. I was aware that Erica desired it regardless of circumstances. She did not speak to me that night, but I observed that I remained silent when she attempted to kiss me goodbye. I turned away, which she found annoying. She advised me not to be overly flirtatious before I arrived at work. In response, she looked at me angrily. She then opened and slammed the door. I proceeded to engage in a brief bout of mirth before undertaking the task of preparing the girls for their day at school. I then sought an audience with Dave, during which I informed him of the current state of affairs. I conveyed that, for the time being, the status quo would prevail in the workplace, but that a potential separation was on the horizon. I initiated contact with Angela to inquire about her divorce attorney. I had not yet made plans to leave Erica. I simply wished to ascertain the security of my financial assets and personal effects. Angela provided me with the contact information of a legal professional, and I scheduled an appointment for later that day. I then contacted Claire, who expressed sympathy for my situation and criticized Erica's actions. Despite her limited ability to assist, she pledged to provide support. Subsequently, I extended an invitation to Josie for a dinner engagement. On Friday night, I informed Chris and Josie that I would reveal something, but I did not specify that it was related to them. I emphasized that it was only a dinner invitation. In light of recent events, I anticipated that many women would be eager to offer assistance. I requested Angela's lawyer's contact information and scheduled an appointment with her. I inquired about the possibility of discussing the termination of the relationship. I also expressed my concern about the well-being of our daughters. With regard to my daughters, the situation is essentially resolved. I intend to ascertain whether it would be possible to negotiate a financial settlement. One aspect that causes me concern is that, should she become pregnant, I would be unable to maintain a close relationship with her. Consequently, if the pregnancy results in a child, I will not be the biological father. I am reluctant to assume such a responsibility. Josie and I discussed the matter further for a few minutes before. Upon returning to work, I felt a sense of relief and clarity. Now that Erica had come clean, there would be no more hiding whether she was with that guy or not. It appeared she might have been or he had been trying for a while. Meeting the lawyer was an expected next step. She provided a detailed explanation of the Australian divorce process, which is relatively straightforward. Given the prevalence of divorces in our society, it is unsurprising that many young people are hesitant to marry. When we discussed the possibility of posting on social media, she stated that it would be a relatively quick process. She did not inquire about our separation, but I stated that I desired full custody and asked why she then proceeded to provide a detailed account of the legal implications of the situation. She informed me that, in the eyes of the law, mothers are no longer solely responsible for their children. Instead, the court may grant custody to a parent who can demonstrate that they are the primary caregiver for the child and that the other parent is not present. This is a significant shift in the legal landscape, as it prioritizes the well-being of children and attempts to reduce the challenges faced by fathers in custody cases. Upon my return home, my mother greeted me with a kiss on the cheek, as she had always done. I proceeded to drop my belongings and go to my 2 daughters at the table. They ate with apparent satisfaction before their mother took them to wash and prepare for bedtime. I read them a story, kissed and hugged them when they inquired about their mother's whereabouts. I informed them that she was occupied with work. She was occupied with work-related tasks, and the girls had formed the impression that she was not present much during my absence. Upon Erica's return and discovery of me in the guest room, she sensed that something had changed. I had relocated some belongings there because the door was unlocked. She simply entered and observed me, who was lying on the bed with a book. "Are you here?" she inquired. "Do you believe I will continue sleeping next to you in light of your recent statements?" "I assure you, that is not the case. The only way I will return to our room is if you cease all activities and engage in marriage counseling. Additionally, I require you to terminate your employment at this establishment. I am unable to trust you if you maintain your position there." I attempted to intervene, but Erica met my gaze with a steady, unwavering intensity. She took a step back, remaining by the door. "Chris, I cannot discern any positive aspects to this situation. I fail to perceive any benefit in my wife's involvement with other men. However, I will not impede your actions. Erica, you have evidently disregarded my opinion. You have unilaterally decided to alter the structure of our marriage and family. It is evident that you are indifferent to my feelings. It is likely that the colleague with whom you work has been communicating with you for several months. This would explain your recent behavior, which has been markedly different from my own. I will always be there for you as your wife. However, your actions indicate that you are becoming close to another man. This means that you will be around other men that you previously thought you would avoid. I would be fine with this, even though you should know me better," she said, which says a great deal. "I will keep it simple. Erica, simply go away." I noticed her trying not to cry, so I got up and she looked like she wanted a hug. I took hold of the door handle and closed it quietly, not looking at her. I did not speak to her on Tuesday. I returned home somewhat earlier than usual, intending to spend time with our daughters before bedtime. Instead, I watched television and retired for the night as I typically do. She knocked on my door, but I informed her that I was not interested in speaking with her. On Wednesday evening, she discovered me waiting at the kitchen table. She did not speak, simply got a drink and sat across from me. I informed her of my decision. "I believe you are failing to consider the implications of your actions. I have provided you with the relevant documentation, which outlines the financial implications of your decision. However, I must stress that this is not a straightforward process. It is a financial plan for what will happen next. There are two key points to consider. Firstly, if you bring any of your in the event that you engage in sexual intercourse with another individual, I will not be benevolent towards you. Our romantic relationship is irreparably damaged. I do not wish to maintain any form of proximity with you. However, should you demonstrate your fidelity and undergo an STD test, we may be able to engage in counseling and resume a normalcy that previously existed. Thirdly, in the event that you become pregnant, the child will not be biologically yours, and you will be solely responsible for its upbringing." She was advised to return to her parents' residence, as she would not be permitted to raise the child. Her lips trembled slightly as she grasped the gravity of the situation. She was informed that she had been relocated to the spare room, which was now her room. She was also informed that she and her partner had assumed joint responsibility for raising their children and maintaining the household. "Aside from that, I am willing to consider your unconventional proposal. However, if you are involved with another individual, I will assume that this is the end of our relationship." She paused for a moment to collect her thoughts before looking up with a determined expression. "I am committed to this plan, Chris. I have invested too much time and energy into this to simply walk away now. If you want a different life, you are free to pursue it, but I am leaving. This is the end of our relationship. We will reconcile in a year. Do you truly intend to reject this proposal? A marriage is a partnership, not a solo endeavor. You did not engage in dialogue, you simply made a decision. Fine. I am leaving. I will continue to wear my ring until we have formally terminated the marriage, regardless of whether I will remain in the relationship. The possibility of another romantic interest is a concern that will be addressed at a later date. My commitment to my vows is a matter of importance to me, and I intend to honor them until the dissolution of our marriage is finalized. I will maintain composure and avoid bringing individuals into our home who may be perceived as romantic interests, but I must advise you that if I encounter any such individual on our premises, I will ask them to leave. I will not tolerate any disrespectful or disruptive behavior, regardless of how intimidating the individual may appear. I am currently experiencing a high level of distress. At this moment, I am in love with you, Chris, she whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. It is rather peculiar that you express your feelings in such a manner. I was preparing for the evening on Friday night when I heard her return at a reasonable hour. She summoned me and the girls. I exited my room and observed her in the kitchen, checking the refrigerator. She looked at me, smiled briefly, and then became visibly sad when she noticed I was dressed in a way that indicated I was going out. She asked where the girls were, where my parents were, and why I was dressed up. I informed her that I was going out that night. I must admit that it felt good to see her realize that I was going to have a good time, even though she wasn't going to be there. Where are we going? I am attending a dinner, then I may have a drink. You are free to do as you wish. I hoped she would pause when our gazes met. I sensed that I was not pleased. Nevertheless, she muttered, dinner is with Josie. Nothing unusual occurred that would cause me to fail my wife. I confirmed that we had discussed the mess I had found. On Sunday, I informed Josie of the truth on multiple occasions. She expressed disappointment upon learning of my contemplation of a potential separation. I stated that I still hoped she would not act inappropriately, but as soon as she revealed that she had been intimate with the other individual, I was met with the ultimatum that our marriage was over. I am uncertain as to whether Josie has taken this step. She inquired about this later on. I was contemplating whether to accept the invitation to drinks in a pub. Part of me was reluctant to do so because I believed that she would eventually reveal the truth, not with the intention of causing me pain, but to inform me of her decision. I was preparing to end our marriage, and it was only a matter of time before she was informed of my decision. There was no possibility of reconciliation. I took a sip of beer and I reflected on the matter for a moment and then shook my head. In my estimation, she cares more about her job than about our relationship. I am uncertain as to when this shift occurred, but she would have to work extremely hard for me to even consider staying the weekend. I ensured that the children were not excluded. Erica additionally, she was fulfilling her role as a mother in an exemplary manner. There was no physical affection between us, including hugs, kisses, or hand-holding. I was polite, but I could sense a gradual decline in my feelings for her. I still held affection for her, but I believed it would not last much longer. I had little hope that our relationship would recover. It is interesting to note that she entered my room on Sunday night, after the children had fallen asleep. Her robe was removed, revealing that she was not wearing any clothing underneath. She still appeared to be physically attractive. It is evident that the wife did not desire to remain in the marriage. She proceeded to inquire about the nature of his relationship with the other woman. I replied that I had not yet engaged in such a relationship. As a man, I believed her at the time and considered being with her to be a preferable alternative to being alone. Consequently, we continued to be physically intimate, yet there was no emotional attachment. From her perspective, she expressed love for me while we were together. I did not respond. My intention was to ensure her happiness. It was the last time we engaged in sexual intimacy as a married couple. She informed me that she would be working more, leaving me to explain to the children that their mother would not be around as much. They were not particularly upset about it. Given her previous absence, I was now aware of the circumstances. My work became more straightforward, as I was able to return home to my daughters each night. Additionally, having my mother prepare dinner was a significant benefit. Once I assumed responsibility, I treated Erica fairly and saved some food for her. She returned late on Thursday, accompanied by the children. I had been watching television when she entered the room. She sat down after placing her bag on a chair and clearing her throat. I turned off the television and looked at her. She informed me that she had slept with him after work. I acknowledged her honesty and then returned to watching television, ignoring her. This is all she requested. I presented Erica with the facts. You have acted in accordance with your own desires, and now it is my turn to assert my rights. I have decided to terminate our marriage. I will not tolerate your infidelity. I intend to remain in this household with the children. If you wish to pursue a different path, it is up to you to leave. She exhaled and proceeded to the kitchen. The microwave began to emit a beep. After a period of time, she proceeded to consume her meal and subsequently returned to stand in close proximity to me. She stated, you are failing to recognize the positive aspects of this situation, Chris. I still hold feelings of affection for you, and I always will. However, there are no positive aspects in this situation. You are my wife, and you are engaging in sexual relations with other men. We took vows, and we discussed the importance of faithfulness. I am exhausted by this situation, and I am no longer willing to tolerate it. She stated that he had slept with another woman, which effectively ended the marriage. He was unable to retract this information. I had previously admired her, but now I felt nothing but contempt. I went to bed, and I no longer wished to see or spend time with him. She wept as she entered the spacious room. 6 months later, when I returned home, I was surprised to find that my mother's car was no longer there. I observed a note on the front door from my mother indicating that she had taken my sisters to her residence for the night and advised me to explore the premises. I questioned why she had not made a telephone call. I considered this and proceeded to enter the house. I placed my bag on the sofa and surveyed the interior, but did not discern any unusual items. Then, in the kitchen, I discovered a small envelope. On the table, my name was written in marker. 2 rings that I recognized were placed on top of the note. I was tempted to laugh at the thought of her departure. I picked up the rings and sat down next to the letter. I was not inclined to read it. It could simply be an apology while still maintaining feelings for me. In truth, I have not experienced such sentiments from her. I had loved her for a considerable period of time. We only conversed in the presence of my sisters. She was frequently absent from the house and began taking trips. I felt as though I was raising my sisters alone. I took a deep breath before deciding to read it. Our marriage had been over for 6 months, which may help us begin to move forward. Dear Chris, the preceding 6 months have been marked by significant challenges. Despite my efforts to maintain a cordial relationship with my former husband, it has become evident that he does not reciprocate my feelings. I am disheartened by the circumstances that have led to this outcome. I am of the opinion that my decision to leave was beneficial to myself and our children, yet I am disillusioned by the way things have transpired. I am unable to continue residing in the same household with him, as our relationship has become untenable. Consequently, I have decided to take the initiative to relocate. It is in the best interests of both you and our daughters for me to move out. In my letter, I stated where I will now be living. It is a flat near where I work. I wish to clarify that I am not with my boss or any other man. As I write this, I realize that our marriage is over. It appears that I will continue as I have been. However, this is not the case. I am concerned about how you might perceive my actions. However, I wish to clarify that I have always loved you, ever since the day we met. This love will endure for a long time to come. I understand why you are upset, and I empathize with the pain of knowing that you do not love me in return. I had hoped that you would be able to overcome this difficult period. I had assumed that your love for me was stronger than any obstacle. However, I was mistaken. I will visit the house this weekend to converse with the girls. I took what I desired and left the significant items because the apartment already had furniture. I took photographs to display on my wall. I found the wedding photograph you removed. I will hang it up because it has been approximately 7 months since you left our room. It seems we will. In 5 months, we must commence discussions regarding the dissolution of our marriage. I am reluctant to initiate this process, yet it seems that I am unable to alter the circumstances. You have adopted a definitive stance, and you have persisted in this course of action. I will miss our children and our relationship. I have missed sleeping in the same bed for months. I have missed the intimacy that we once shared. I wish you could see things from my perspective. I wish you could. I hope you will recognize the value in what I suggested. I will miss you, Chris, and regardless of how you feel about me, I still love you. I will call the children tomorrow night and visit them this weekend to explain why I felt I needed to leave. I love you, Erica. I sighed and set the letter down, shaking my head because she still refused to apologize. In consideration of the events that had transpired, she was still preoccupied with the incident. While I had not engaged in sexual intercourse with another individual, I did frequent social gatherings. Jose accompanied me approximately once a week. I did not bring her here to avoid any potential inquiries from Erica. Angela had explicitly expressed her desire for me on that same day. My divorce was finalized, as were the divorces of several other women at work following the dissolution of my marriage. After discussing the women with my mother, I informed her of the note. She was aware of the circumstances. I was no longer angry or sad, I was simply waiting for the inevitable conclusion. I then called Jose. Erica left. After being informed that Jose would arrive in approximately 30 minutes, she stood at my door, appearing somewhat uncertain. I invited her inside, closed the door, and embraced her. She apologized for her behavior, stating that she was unsure of herself. I assured her that I was not offended by her actions and that they had made the situation less strange. I offered her wine and ordered a beer for myself. We sat on the couch and I began to explain the situation. The couch and I demonstrated the contents of the letter to her. She perused it twice, set it down, and shook her head. It was evident that she was lost in a fantasy. Jose informed me that we hadn't heard from her in quite some time since we discussed it. Angela mentioned that it had been quiet as well. To be frank, when you informed us that she had returned home, we were somewhat taken aback. She informed us that she was currently in a relationship with him. We were somewhat taken aback by this revelation. CLA has previously experienced infidelity and has a deep understanding of your pain. She is currently grieving the loss of a long-term friend but is unable to move on. Hand-holding with Josie brought her immense joy. What are your thoughts, Chris? I would like to spend more time with you. You are a resilient individual. I empathize with your anguish. I, too, have experienced pain. However, I had the insight that your actions might prevent her from continuing her destructive behavior. That night, after she informed me of her decision, I realized that our marriage was irreparably damaged. I was unprepared for the situation I encountered upon returning home. I had prepared us for a relatively simple scenario. Jose proceeded to the main bedroom to ascertain the situation. The bed and furniture remained intact, but all of her clothes and jewelry had vanished. His belongings in the bathroom were also gone, as he had relocated them to another bathroom. He informed Jose that he had returned to the main bedroom and was certain Erica had not brought anyone. I was at home every night, but I did not have time during the day, whether she was with her boss or someone else. Later, while sitting on the couch, I smiled as Jose cuddled next to me and I wrapped my arm around her. We used to spend time together at her house whenever I came over, but I promised to keep my Jose informed me that she would not engage in any sexual activity with me unless I were married. I was amenable to this condition and, in fact, it only enhanced my regard for her. Later that night, as we walked to her vehicle, she paused before entering. I would love to remain with Chris, she said, but I'm uncertain that I can. Upon receipt of your divorce papers, I will be at your door with a bag ready to stay. Chris, secure your spot early. You are already aware of my feelings towards you. I informed Erica that should she act as she did, someone would be there for you immediately. She then said softly, I did not want you to get divorced, but now you are almost single. I embraced her firmly and we remained in that position for approximately 15 minutes, with me massaging her back and her head resting against my chest. When she finally pulled away, I kissed her cheek. I was eager for more, but I was also aware that she preferred to wait. I was similarly inclined, but it was challenging. The most difficult aspect was informing the girls the following night that my mother was present as I attempted to maintain a straightforward approach. The girls, aged 6, were too young to comprehend the situation. They expressed profound sadness at the loss of their mother. Fortunately, Erica contacted me after the girls had bathed. They once again exhibited signs of distress, longing for their mother. I could discern Erica's tears as well. She had promised to visit on the following Saturday to discuss the matter further. On Saturday, I informed Erica that I would be available to discuss the matter further after she had spoken with the girls. I then proceeded to the backyard while my mother remained with the girls. I assured Erica that I would assume full responsibility for the children's care. I highlighted that I had been consistently present with them and had maintained comprehensive records. Furthermore, I asserted that no judge would rule in Erica's favor regarding custody. I want you to have them, Chris, she responded, which did not surprise me. I had spent only a relatively short period of time here, approximately 1 year. I had observed their interactions with you, but not with me. We could have avoided all of this. I added, and then stopped. There was no further point in discussing the matter. Please kiss them good night for me. I will simply pay them a visit when I am able to do so and call them at night if you are not otherwise occupied. My mother remained at work later than usual that night, and she was visibly distressed when I informed her of the situation 7 months ago. She merely inquired if I would terminate my relationship with Erica and end things with her. She was pleased when I replied in the affirmative. However, Erica proceeded to fulfill her end of the agreement. In accordance with her promise, she made weekly visits on weekends, and I permitted her to spend time with the girls when I returned. As she was departing, I observed that she was in a state of distress. She appeared to be seeking solace from me, but when she realized that I was not providing it, she simply said goodbye and departed for her vehicle. She did not make nightly calls in the subsequent weeks. Despite the passage of several weeks, the girls appeared to benefit from Erica's presence. She typically visited on weekends, usually on Saturdays, and spent the day with them. However, the dynamic between Erica and the children was not as it had been previously. Erica had the children to herself or stayed home while their mother was away. Nevertheless, the children were perceptive and aware that their relationship with their mother had changed. The dissolution of the marriage between Erica's parents was a recurring topic in our discussions. Jose and I would often spend time together, engaging in behaviors that were reminiscent of a romantic relationship. However, we limited our physical contact to only holding hands when we went out. Erica's laughter was a source of immense joy for me. It was a sound that I found deeply satisfying. She consistently exuded a radiant beauty whenever we saw each other. She was naturally attractive. I began to lead her around the house. The girls liked Auntie Josie and seemed to understand that she was more than just a friend to me. A few months before I could file for divorce, we were eating dinner when Annabelle, in her cute voice, asked, "Daddy, is Auntie Josie your girlfriend?" I responded with laughter, exhibiting a slight blush, though I was not surprised. Even at the age of 6, the girls had correctly discerned the situation. "What are your thoughts, Auntie Josie?" "Are you my girlfriend?" she inquired, her voice soft, her hand clasping mine and her lips kissing my cheek. The girls continued to giggle. "Is it okay if I am your father's girlfriend?" she asked them. "You make Daddy smile," Amelia said, "and that makes him happy." Annabelle added, "Mommy hadn't made him happy for a long time." Amelia said this in a quiet tone. The children seemed to understand that they had witnessed the end of our marriage. I found myself in tears. I tried to keep the worst from them. However, the children's mother had departed, and I was only able to see them on an occasional basis due to the necessity of childcare. I retained the services of a lawyer to assist me with the dissolution of my marriage as soon as I was permitted to do so. In Australia, the process of obtaining a divorce is relatively straightforward, particularly when both parties are in agreement regarding the division of assets and liabilities. It is not necessary to appear in court, but the issue of child custody is more complex. On the occasion when we met to discuss the matter of the children, Erica arrived with a lawyer, looking as stunning as ever. My own lawyer was dressed in a professional manner, and Jose was present as a form of backup. Erica approached Jose, and she gave a smirk, but it was not a hostile gesture. It seemed as though she recalled some harsh words from Jose. "Do you hate me?" she inquired. "No," I replied. "I don't love you." Jose interjected, "I know Clara will not talk to you, but Angela, I believe, has let it go." Erica emitted a sad laugh. "She texted me today and said she was going to see my ex." Angela states things that she is aware will not come to fruition. The remainder of the divorce proceedings were relatively straightforward. I retained ownership of the house, and there was no financial compensation. Erica was permitted to take a few items from the house, but not an excessive number. The financial settlement was fair and equitable, with the retirement funds remaining intact. As a potential consequence of the divorce for our children, I requested that they remain with me. However, Erica saw them frequently, particularly on weekends and one night per week. I informed her that it would be inadvisable for our children to interact with individuals such as her boss and a few others. The judge expressed surprise at Erica's apparent lack of objection to the arrangement. She had been requesting more time with her children. Her rationale for maintaining this arrangement for so long was that it did not align with her personal sense of right and wrong. Even my legal counsel was on the verge of interjecting that this was not an appropriate course of action. Erica acknowledged that I had been the primary caregiver for the children for over 2 years and that they were better off with me. She was compelled to acquiesce to the proposed arrangement. My mother was with the girls outside the courtroom when they began to run. I was permitted to approach them, and I embraced them as well. I also embraced and kissed my mother. I informed them in a low voice that their mother loved them very much. They replied in a soft tone of affirmation. I then encouraged Erica to convey to her mother how much she loved her. Erica embraced her daughters for an extended period of time. The emotional intensity of the moment was palpable. Despite the circumstances, I was aware that my wife, who was seated next to me, was also in tears. Erica expressed her longing for our daughters each time she spoke with them. I could discern that she was in a state of distress when we concluded the call. I endeavored to extend kindness to her before disclosing that the girls were always accessible for communication or visits. Erica approached me and stated that she would be available to collect the girls. She expressed gratitude for my understanding and support. Do not prevent them from seeing you. You are their mother, Erica. Despite the circumstances, you are still their mother. I would not let our disagreements prevent you from seeing them. I then stated, however, I ask that you do not bring up the list of names. I mean it. Do not do it. I will not allow it when the girls are with me. It will only be us. Everybody knows what happened. The truth is that no one I am with wants to be around our children. Those who wish to be around our children are encouraged to remain in their current residence. There is a second room in the apartment that has been prepared for the girls. I have furnished it in a manner that will be pleasing to them. I may, however, seek alternative accommodation at a later date. To be candid, I do not foresee myself forming a relationship with someone after my husband. She then paused and sighed. I do not believe that many men would be amenable to my current situation. Therefore, I am unsure if pursuing a romantic relationship is the best course of action. It would be optimal for me to remain unaccompanied. Jose approached and embraced her friend with a firm grip. Erica returned the embrace, and I considered the potential consequences for them at a later point in time. Despite my positive regard for Jose, I was recently involved in a significant situation, and initiating a new relationship might not be prudent. I did not wish for Jose to perceive her as merely a substitute for my former partner. The arrival of a new mother for my children, coupled with the decision to take the kids home with Jose and the subsequent appearance of my mother in the house, had a cathartic effect. It seemed as though all of the previous difficulties had been consigned to the past, and I was able to embrace a new beginning. My mother embraced the children, and Jose requested that I accompany her to her vehicle. She advised me to proceed with caution, noting that my divorce marked the conclusion of a significant chapter in my life. This is a significant chapter in your life, but it is important to allow yourself time to process it. Jose is not pressuring you. It is evident that she understands the need for space and time to heal. She has been a reliable and supportive friend throughout this process. I am curious if you have had a similar experience. In my observation, you have handled the situation with integrity and respect. It is necessary to comprehend the rationale behind her actions, but that is a matter of the past. It is imperative to progress towards the future. I proceeded inside and heard the children playing in their room, keeping Jose occupied while she sat with them. I then observed Jose on the floor with my daughter, smiling at me. I inquired if they desired something to drink, and Jose and the children accompanied me into the kitchen. The children were informed that they were not permitted to consume food or beverages in their bedrooms that night. As the girls were put to bed, they were told in simple terms that they would live with me the majority of the time and see their mother on weekends and maybe once a week. It was assumed that Erica could not keep them overnight on weekdays, but she was told that she could. After the girls had fallen asleep, I invited Erica to join me for dinner. I offered her a glass of wine, which she accepted, and we sat down together in the living room. As I was about to take a sip of wine, Erica took my face in her hands and turned it towards her, planting a kiss on my lips. She advised me not to expect things to move quickly, given that she was now single. However, she reassured me that I should not rush, as I needed time to heal. She also stated that she would be there for me, just as I had been there for her. I am grateful to Erica for facilitating my introduction to you. You provided assistance on that night and took care of me. You were always willing to help and were more than just Erica's friend to me. I informed her that she cuddled up to me and placed her hand on my chest. She whispered, "I have placed my bag in your room." I was unsure of the implications of this statement. The decision of whether to sleep with you or in the guest room is yours to make, Jose. I will not pressure you in any way. However, the girls would be pleased to see you in the morning. It had been a long and exhausting day when we went to bed. Jose took her bag, and I assumed she would go to another room. I was somewhat sad because I had not slept next to anyone in a long time, but I was lying in bed when I heard a knock. She stood at the door wearing snug pajamas, a short top, and shorts. She did not say anything as she quickly entered the room. When she was close to me, she asked what I wore to bed. I thought you might come over, so I wore shorts. I can't wear too much because I get too hot. I just wear a t-shirt. Shirt and underwear, she said softly. However, if I am in the company of a gentleman of admirable character, the shirt may be removed with haste. I procured these pajamas and additional garments with the intention of spending more time in your company. I was disinclined to retire to the other room. I awoke with Josie in close proximity. She was awake because she emitted a brief, involuntary sound of mirth when I shifted my position, becoming aware of my physical contact with her. One hand was on her, and she grasped my wrist and stated that it was unobjectionable, that we would simply adjust our sleeping arrangements. She considered the experience agreeable. We had approached each other so closely that the children were overjoyed to see Josie in the morning, even during the school day. I maintained the children were permitted to remain at home the previous day, thus affording them the opportunity to reunite with their mother. Following the designation of custodial arrangements, the family proceeded to consume breakfast, dress, and subsequently depart for their respective vehicles. The girls emitted audible expressions of mirth as Josie and I exchanged a brief kiss. "Would you be amenable to an invitation to our residence this weekend?" I inquired. "I will bring a few items and arrive after my workday on Friday, remaining until Monday if you so desire. Erica will not have the children, so I am contemplating whether you would appreciate my staying with you." "I would be delighted for you to remain with us," Chris replied. "Is that agreeable with you? I will contact you tonight and arrive at the conclusion of my workday." Dave arrived. Not long after my arrival, I was greeted by a cheerful atmosphere in my office. Before inquiring about the day's events, I informed him of my recent divorce and the stability of my children's schedules. This seemed to bring him joy, as it relieved me of some of my concerns. I hoped that things would soon feel more settled. He then made a light-hearted remark about my being back on the market, implying that some women at work might become interested. I acknowledged that this might involve Josie, whom he had mentioned. I clarified that I was not rushing into anything serious at the moment, but that she had been very supportive. We enjoy as time has passed, we have grown to appreciate one another more. Despite the lack of an official dating status, she has remained overnight on several occasions. His expression indicated a certain degree of amusement. There have been no developments of a romantic nature. With regard to your former partner, she has her own accommodation in the city, her own job, and she is able to see the children on a regular basis. She receives them every other weekend and once per week. However, she has indicated that weeknights are challenging. She will occasionally pay a visit for dinner. We have now divorced. She has suggested that her workload may have increased, which is a concern. It is important to note that I do not believe she has been involved with anyone else besides him. However, I could not continue to coexist with her after she informed me of her relationship with him. This marked the end of our relationship. I have been waiting for this outcome ever since. Do you miss her? I averted my gaze in thought. I miss who she was. Erica is not the same person she once was. She began to change long before that unfortunate conversation. Everyone was aware of my divorce. However, I believe they noticed that I was already interested in someone else. Female colleagues continued to flirt with me, and some individuals openly expressed a desire to spend a night or two together, which left me speechless. I was unsure how to respond to such bold offers. Upon returning home on Friday, I observed that my mother's and Josie's vehicles were parked outside. As I entered the residence, my children approached me with enthusiastic hugs and kisses. My mother and Josie was seated on the couch. I kissed my mother on the cheek and shared a kiss with Josie. My mother's visit was brief, she merely embraced my children and laughed. Josie and I shared a brief moment of laughter, after which I sat beside her. We kissed again, and she snuggled up against me. The children could not help but laugh. They quickly joined in on our embrace. I proposed a takeaway for that evening. I suggested McDonald's, but there was a fish and chip shop nearby that they particularly liked. It was not the most economical option, but the food was of good quality. Josie had not yet tried it, so I recommended it to her. I placed our order, which included 2 large burgers for Josie and me and smaller burgers for the children, as well as a large bag of crispy chips and drinks. Upon our return to the table, we found everyone to be in high spirits. Amelia, one of my children, inquired. I had a fleeting thought that she might pay us a visit now and then. Given that her parents have recently separated, it would be beneficial for her father to take things slowly. Would you like Aunt Josie to stay longer? Both girls giggled and nodded affirmatively. I observed that Josie's eyes were becoming watery. I took her hand and kissed it. I inquired as to whether she missed her mother. The girls responded in the affirmative. Annabelle then asked whether we would see their mother every 2 weeks. Their father replied in the affirmative and stated that their mother still loved us. Amelia then asked whether she believed their father. The girls nodded firmly, which made me feel better. I will call their mother later. Prior to retiring for the night, the girls expressed their desire to converse. They inquired as to whether they had enjoyed their recent interaction with their mother. She had conveyed feelings of longing and affection for them. Amelia articulated her love and longing for their mother as well. Both girls became visibly emotional, prompting me to do the same. The girls demonstrated resilience in coping with the separation and divorce, yet they did shed tears. They attributed these emotions to me. The girls were too young to comprehend all of the reasons for our separation. Fortunately, Erica also spoke to them softly about why we split up. I permitted the girls to stay up late on Friday and Saturday, allowing them to watch a movie until it got dark, with Josie and I keeping them company until bedtime. When it was time for bed, I read them a story while Josie watched from the door. I was aware that these were memories that would be cherished in the future. It was possible that they would no longer want bedtime stories, but I hoped that they would always want a hug and a kiss. I left the hall light on, closing their door halfway. I then proceeded to join Josie in the living room, having obtained drinks for us. I played some low music and we engaged in conversation about a range of topics. The topic of the divorce and Erica was not broached. The evening concluded with Josie excusing herself to the bathroom, returning shortly thereafter attired in black pajamas with gold edges and a silky texture. She slid into bed beside me, and we engaged in a prolonged gaze and a shared kiss. Her body pressed against mine, and she laughed as she sensed how excited I was, and then she said, in a quiet voice, something that I agreed with. I know that we have been seeing each other for a while, and that I am not wearing my ring anymore. You are free, but I need to be certain about us. Chris, I cannot rush into being close with you. I would not do that. She put her finger on my lips, and I am aware that you believe I should be certain. However, I feel that being close is of great importance to me. Could you please clarify whether anyone else has approached him? I must admit that I do not frequently socialize and I attach great importance to sexual intimacy. I have never been in a casual relationship. I have always required a certain level of commitment from my partners. We are already close, which is why I am with you. I have complete trust in you. I have informed the women at work about our relationship and instructed them to maintain a distance. She paused, then kissed me again. Angela is not upset, she is supportive and aware that you are a suitable partner for me. Throughout the weekend, the women were engaged in other activities, but Josie and I continued to interact. They expressed admiration for us. Josie and I were constantly seeking her attention. Josie was readily responsive, and I sensed that she aspired to become a mother. I had overheard her discussing this with her friends, including Erica, and I believed that it would be a topic we would discuss if our relationship progressed. On Sunday evening, the girls were fatigued, but I was particularly struck when the girls requested that Josie hug and kiss them as well. In the living room, Josie embraced me and may have shed a tear. She then said quietly, "I am glad they like you so much." I replied that while introducing a new person into their lives can be challenging, having you around always helps. Subsequently, as we were in bed, the temperature increased when I initiated some light-hearted teasing. She was compelled to cease and instead laugh. We resumed our kissing, and my hand made contact with her buttocks in a gentle manner. She emitted a soft sound, and I observed that she was not wearing any undergarments. She caught my eye and smiled. "I am wearing pajamas," she said in a low voice. "There is no need for underwear." She indicated that her intention was to stay for a maximum of 2 nights, but that she would be amenable to staying for a week. I informed her that every weekend would be ideal, and that it would be greatly appreciated by the girls. Josie stayed on Tuesday and Thursday, as I had informed her that Erica was coming over on Wednesday. The fact that we had dated was not a topic of discussion, but it could potentially lead to awkward situations with Josie. We discussed our future plans, but I felt that we were merely seeing each other. I was confident that she was not pursuing other romantic interests, and although it had been a considerable length of time, I was willing to wait for her. The girls were delighted to see their mother on Wednesday, and when she left after story time, they did not cry. I will acknowledge that it was. Even after the anger and sadness had subsided, I was aware that it would be challenging to develop a closer relationship with our children than that of parents. The actions she took felt like a betrayal, and while I was attempting to move on, I still experienced a great deal of pain. I drove to Josie's house after work on Friday so that her car would not have to remain at mine. The girls were as was to be expected. Josie was overjoyed to see her mother, and even Erica seemed pleased to see her. Josie was given a big hug, as she was wont to receive from Erica. On Friday night, pizza was delivered for dinner. This was a favorite of Josie's during her childhood. Josie laughed as I finished a large pizza by myself. She then asked where I had put everything after I had put the girls to bed. As the weather warmed up, we sat outside on the pool deck. The nights were still cool, but comfortable enough to sit outside without a heavy sweater. She finally asked about Wednesday. I informed her that it was okay. The girls were delighted to see Erica, and it meant a great deal to her to spend time with them. I did not say much to her. She stated that she had a work trip and would not see the girls for a week, but that she would return for the weekend. I did not inquire as to whether she was aware of our romantic relationship. I was uncertain as to whether you would inform her, but now that we are divorced, she is not in need of such knowledge. It is likely that she surmised this information based on the considerable amount of time we spend together. You maintain contact with her on a regular basis. We communicate via text on an occasional basis. I can state that she is thriving professionally, yet experiencing a sense of discontentment in other aspects of her life. I do not empathize with her situation. She had the opportunity to pursue alternative paths that would not have led to the dissolution of our marriage. Each time she made a misguided decision, I might wait a little longer before suggesting that we are. It is my hope that she will not be distressed by this turn of events. I believe that she is aware of the shift in the dynamic of our group. She has not heard from CLA for a considerable period of time. Angela maintains communication with her, but CLA is reluctant to forgive her. The incident involving her former partner was simply too much for her to bear. Claire has a strong aversion to infidelity and believes that what happened was wrong. Such an action would be grounds for termination. During a telephone conversation, she became enraged and subsequently terminated the call. I had previously informed her that her actions would have consequences. It is unfortunate to witness the dissolution of such a long-standing relationship. Do you still maintain contact with Claire? I do not frequently communicate with her, but she occasionally sends me text messages. She is still on good terms with Angela. The weekend was enjoyable with my children. We proceeded to explore the city, as there were numerous activities to engage in. To keep them occupied, we ultimately found ourselves at the harbor, enjoying ice cream in the sunshine. Following a lengthy walk, both children were seated on my shoulders, and I made a promise to them that a beach day would be forthcoming. They are particularly fond of playing in the sand and getting their feet wet. As a single parent, I find that having a full schedule and engaging in activities with my children provides a sense of fulfillment. As a father with 2 young children, the hours of the day seem to pass more quickly than one might expect. The workday itself seems to fly by, as one is often occupied with a multitude of tasks and responsibilities. Additionally, one's phone often buzzes with messages, which can range from notifications about the girls' school schedule to updates about their daily activities. In terms of childcare arrangements, Josie's mother, Erica, provides regular updates about the girls' pick-up and drop-off times. Erica's schedule allows her to visit 1 night a week, although she has indicated that any night would be convenient, except for Fridays. I had made plans with Erica, who informed me that everything was acceptable. Approximately 2 months later, there was a shift in dynamics between Josie and me. The girls had a pleasant experience on Friday evening, watching a film before retiring for the night. After we exchanged farewell kisses and embraces, I returned to our room while Josie proceeded to what was now our room as well. She stood in front of the door. While I was watching television, she was standing in front of me wearing a thin black dress that revealed a considerable amount of skin. She appeared shy but also very attractive. Her body language conveyed that she was excited. I appreciated her natural demeanor. She clearly invited me as we stood and kissed deeply, moving slowly to the bedroom. Josie assisted me in removing my clothes. She proceeded to remove my clothing, leaving me in a state of undress. While I found her attire appealing, my attention was drawn to the more intimate aspects of her anatomy. In the subsequent hours, Josie became aware of my penchant for providing pleasure. My lips, tongue, and fingers traced the contours of her body, eliciting a response. She expressed a particular fondness for the attention I bestowed upon her chest. Her nipples, in particular, required careful and deliberate stimulation. I elicited laughter from her by kissing her abdomen, as she was particularly susceptible to tickling. I also kissed her legs and feet, which were aesthetically pleasing despite my personal aversion to feet. The culminating event was the enjoyment of her taste, which I savored while gradually building her climax. She reached a state of intense pleasure and was compelled to grasp a pillow to maintain composure. Her body expressed its pleasure. I facilitated her reaching that point repeatedly until she requested that I cease. Then it was her turn to provide me with a similar experience, which she did. It had been too long for me, so I promptly informed her that I was about to reach orgasm. Erica, who was previously with me, had not done so in a long time. Josie did. Subsequently, she informed me, in the context of our ongoing relationship, that she would continue to provide me with this level of support and affection in the future. We proceeded to engage in physical intimacy, albeit not on that particular occasion. Afterwards, we engaged in physical contact and verbal expression of affection. She expressed her feelings of love for me in a gentle and intimate manner, indicating that she had never experienced such a profound level of attachment to a male partner. Prior to this, I had not been with a significant number of partners. I express my gratitude to you, Josie, for all that you have done for me. I ask you to refrain from further action, as I believe we are in a state of equilibrium following your actions on that night, as well as your subsequent assistance. I value your care and concern for me. I recognize that it was challenging to develop feelings for you when you were still married. If you had remained married, I would not have taken action. We engaged in sexual intercourse on Saturday night, which proved that we were a compatible match. We had not been with anyone in over a year, but we took our time enjoying each other before finally engaging in sexual intercourse in the most intimate way. Once I was inside her, I kissed her while her lower lips trembled in unison, moving together. I was astonished at the sheer pleasure of ejaculating inside her. She embraced me tightly, and I sensed her intense emotional state. She then requested to be on top, and we proceeded to engage in sexual intercourse. We enjoyed numerous satisfying moments and continued to play for the remainder of the night. We eventually fell asleep, our expressions radiating contentment. My children were, despite their tender age, the children appeared to intuitively perceive the unique nature of our relationship, as evidenced by their frequent smiles and laughter. When they inquired about the source of our joy, the girls expressed their understanding that their father and aunt were happy. I leaned in to kiss her. It is evident that we are exceedingly happy together. I informed them that, now that Josie and I had recognized that we were as compatible in our love lives as we were in all other aspects of our lives, she enjoyed spending a considerable amount of time at my residence. I observed that she enjoyed spending time with my children, and it was evident that the children were developing feelings for Joe, although not to the same extent as they loved their mother and father. Given her high level of involvement in their lives, it was to be expected that they would form a strong attachment to her over time. Erica, their mother, would take the girls from Friday night to Sunday, which afforded Josie and me the opportunity to focus on our own activities. These were the actual times we set aside for our dates. There were occasions when Josie was content to spend time at home, relaxing or cuddling on the couch. However, we did enjoy going out to eat, whether trying new places or returning to old favorites. We also used this time to catch up with friends and family. After approximately half a year together, I met her parents. I was immediately accepted by her. Her mother approached me and inquired about the timing of my proposal. I blushed, and she hugged me tightly. I had never seen her so in love. She said quietly, "I've never seen her so in love." She added, "Marrying her won't be too soon. You waited over a year, but I didn't want to rush into proposing or getting married." The notion of matrimony so soon after a divorce was a source of considerable trepidation for me. My decision to wed Josie was not a hasty one. I had taken the time to ascertain my feelings towards her and was confident that she was the ideal partner for me. The girls in my life held her in high regard, and my parents and friends considered her to be an exceptional individual. It was a Thursday night, approximately 8 months after my separation from my previous partner, and we were relaxing together on the sofa. With the girls asleep, we often sat in quiet contemplation, not feeling the need to engage in lengthy discourse. After a month of reflection, I finally posed the question, "How do you feel about moving in with me?" She regarded me with astonishment for a moment before smiling widely, which I found particularly endearing. She then embraced me with a resounding kiss. "I will take that as a yes," I whispered. "I would like to discuss the matter with the girls in the morning. Do you think they will be amenable to the idea of having Josie live with us full-time?" I paused, but I realized that I had to inform Erica that one cannot move someone in without first informing the girl's mother. I inquired as to the apparent happiness of Josie on that night. She made that night memorable, making me fall asleep with a big grin as she giggled close to me. She suggested that more nights like this would be beneficial once I am in, resting her head on my shoulder. However, she also indicated that the room may need to be made quieter. I laughed, and the next day I informed the girls that Josie was moving in. They were extremely happy and shed tears of joy. I was surprised by how happy they were, honestly. I was concerned that they would perceive me as trying to replace their mother, so I took the time to explain everything. They were able to comprehend the situation, and even Josie shed tears of joy when the girls I embraced her firmly in the living room. I informed Erica that this was a markedly different situation and that I preferred not to communicate via text or phone call. When I mentioned that Josie would be present on Wednesday, she stated that she would also come by. I could discern a hint of amusement in her voice as she conveyed that this development did not come as a surprise to her. It was peculiar to observe Erica's gesture of knocking on the front door upon her arrival. I greeted her in the customary manner, as Josie entered. Her eyes immediately focused on her, and I anticipated a mere nod of acknowledgement from them. However, when Erica proceeded to embrace Josie, I was overcome with joy. Josie then directed her gaze towards me and reciprocated the gesture of affection. The children were delighted to see their mother, who pulled her into their room while I prepared dinner. Josie is remaining loyal to me. I could discern that she was nervous, but her warm greeting seemed to calm her down. When we sat down to eat later, we conversed briefly, only mentioning the significant news. "Erica, I inquired as to whether Josie would be amenable to relocating to my residence with her children." She responded affirmatively, indicating her intention to do so in a few weeks, presumably when I have the children in my care. I informed her that I wished to provide advance notice of this arrangement, emphasizing that I did not want her to be caught off guard or to learn of the change from the children. Her smile was a surprising response. "Chris, I was aware that you and Josie were in a relationship. It is not uncommon for relationships to evolve and for people to move on. Furthermore, the girls hold a great deal of affection for her. They frequently discuss her when they are in my presence. This will prove to be an effective solution. Things are changing." Josie added, "You are still my friend." Erica spoke with her while sipping her wine. "I have been attending therapy sessions for several months." I inquired, "Really?" "I made a few mistakes and needed to figure out why." "Erica, I was uncertain as to whether you had discarded the document or perused it. What I was aware of, yet reluctant to acknowledge, was that I was culpable for the incident. Even now, it is challenging to articulate precisely what I did was hurtful. You caused irreparable damage to our family." She observed our daughters, who had not received much of it. "I offer my sincerest apologies, Chris." After Erica had put the girls to bed, she returned to sit with us. She had a glass of wine and appeared calm. She appeared to be in good health for the first time in a long time. I inquired about the status of her work. I requested a transfer to a different location. He engaged in psychological manipulation. "Chris, this is unacceptable." He and his wife were both complicit in this manipulation. She gave a harsh laugh. He was not the typical victim in a love game, but I discovered that it was his wife who preferred to see other people first. He believed that he would lose everything if they split up, and he was correct. I would not have kept the children or the house, so he agreed to the separation. He agreed to the arrangement, and she enjoyed herself while he waited. I was not the first person he attempted this with, there were others before me. The reason his wife attempted to speak with me is that you were correct, she is not loyal. I have had a thorough discussion with him about the agreement, but he did not like it and still does not. The vicious cycle continues, with the individual who has been hurted often becoming the perpetrator of further harm. Despite this, I still feel the urge to exact revenge. However, she explained, it was not a worthwhile pursuit. She went on to say that the job itself was enjoyable and took her all over the globe, allowing her to visit places she would not have otherwise seen. She ultimately opted to terminate the relationship, but not before experiencing significant distress. The individual in question made grandiose promises regarding the nature of the relationship, which initially led me to believe that it was merely a transient infatuation. However, it soon became evident that his primary focus was on his own gratification, a realization that aligned with your assessment. During my time away from home for work, he encouraged me to engage in intimate relationships with other men. I am unsure if you have had a similar experience. It is unlikely that I will ever forget the names that you called me. They were hurtful and caused me significant distress. Chris was responsible for inflicting deep emotional damage upon me. However, I recall the first occasion on which he uttered those words. I was so enraged that I hurled my drink in his face. I informed him that I was not his to use. He appeared to want to engage in a physical altercation, but I stood my ground and returned to my hotel room. What are you planning to do? I had to ask. I am unsure of the best course of action. He became aware of my unhappiness when I declined to comply with his demands. The proximity between us diminished, and I never acquiesced to his advances. Why not confront him about his inappropriate behavior? She responded with a derisive laugh. It is important to recognize that the human resources team is responsible for maintaining a safe and secure workplace. It is not the worker who is at fault, they merely attempt to conceal their actions and make them disappear. There would be individuals who would claim that I acquiesced to the situation, that I accepted all of his gifts, and that I was okay with flirting. However, it would not work out, so I will simply wait. I am aware that there are other jobs available here because I refuse to play his game. I believe that he will be happy to let me. I experienced a profound sense of loss. Later that night, in the company of Josie, Erica exhibited a tendency to speculate. Despite my efforts to avoid contemplating the matter, I found myself wondering what if. I informed Josie that Erica and I would never reconcile. We collectively assisted Josie in relocating to our residence. During the weekend, Josie was leaving her rent at home and had informed the agency that she would be leaving soon, despite the fact that she was leaving early. We returned to clean the premises to prevent the agency from lodging a complaint about the state of the premises. My children were delighted to see Josie with me on that Sunday night. It did not take long for us to feel completely normal. I made it clear to Josie that I did not expect her to act like a new mother to my daughters. I simply wanted them to be polite to her, and I would address any significant parenting issues. My daughters quickly formed a positive impression of Josie, and I was reassured that they were kind and treated her well. After approximately 3 months, I was asked the following question. I had been waiting for the moment when I kissed Annabelle goodnight. She hugged me tightly and asked, "Daddy, is Josie going to be our new mom? Do you want her to be?" I responded with a question of my own, "How about you, Amelia? Do you want Auntie Josie to become a new mommy?" Both girls responded with enthusiastic affirmation. I embraced both girls with great affection. This prompted me to contemplate proposing to Josie. I had heard some unfavorable accounts of stepparents and was apprehensive about how my daughters and Josie would interact. However, things seemed to be going well, and if any teenage challenges arose, we were prepared. Josie and I had already discussed all of the major issues several years earlier. I wanted to marry again, and I was aware that Josie had similar intentions. She did not conceal her desire to marry, and after moving in together, we discussed having children. We agreed to have at least one after the wedding. We had the room and could afford it, so I decided to keep my proposal a secret. I observed her jewelry to gain insight into the style of the ring she desired. She specified that she wanted something simple yet elegant, nothing ostentatious. She did not want me to expend a considerable sum of money. She desired a ring that symbolized our love. We planned to celebrate our love on a special day. We became husband and wife, thus the proposal was straightforward. We took the train from Erica's residence to the city by the harbor near the bridge. I got down on one knee, presented her with the ring, and inquired as to her willingness to marry me. She nodded and whispered her assent. I then placed the ring on her finger and stood up to embrace her. I had been anticipating this moment since I moved in with Erica. Since her relocation to our domicile, she had expressed her desire for this outcome. The following morning, we informed our offspring that Josie would become their stepmother. Annabella was visibly affected, and then smiled. Amelia embraced Josie first, followed by Annabelle. Both expressed their love for her. Josie was moved. She reciprocated their affections. We informed our acquaintances and relatives of the auspicious event. Josie's parents were elated that she had wed the man of her dreams. They did not hesitate to inquire about the prospect of having more children. They adored Annabelle and Amelia, but we were uncertain if Josie and I shared their desire for children. I informed them that Josie and I had discussed the matter and decided that we wanted children together. When the time came to inform Erica, Josie initially suggested that she might be sad about our relationship, rather than angry with us, simply because our love was here to stay. I had not anticipated this reaction. Much of it, but Josie suspected Eric had hoped, if only slightly, that I would return to her one day. I enjoyed planning the wedding because I wanted to help and was happy to do so. Josie fulfilled her promise to keep it small and intimate, only inviting our family and close friends. We kept the wedding party small and avoided the wild parties that could have resulted in unfortunate outcomes. Erica showed up at our door 2 weeks before the wedding date, which surprised me, as I was still working through my feelings. Despite her previous actions, she was striving to be a commendable mother to our children, and I was reluctant to jeopardize that. "Bond, may I come in and converse with all of you?" she inquired. "Of course," I replied. "I will notify the girls, who will be delighted to see you." I was correct in my assumption that the children would quickly cease their activities and rush to their mother, despite everything. Seeing Erica with our girls, hugging them tightly, kissing them, and telling them she loved them through both her actions and her words, always brought me immense joy. Josie handed her a drink, and we were soon all seated near her. In the kitchen, Erica revealed that she had something important to communicate. She retrieved a letter from her possession, her hands visibly trembling. "I have been in communication with Chris regarding the matter. I have retained the original letter and have not discarded it. I have a new letter for you. This one is also about our daughters. Josie, you are involved in this matter because of your involvement with our daughters. It did affect us now, and we must consider whether to retain this one." She nodded, her smile small. "Very well, Eric. We are all ears." She took a deep breath before wiping her eyes. I felt that this would facilitate our healing, if only to a limited extent. "Dear Chris, Amelia, and Annabelle, I apologize." Tears started to fall. I took her hand, and my daughters rushed to hug their mother. There is no experience more affecting than seeing one's mother in distress. Erica took a few deep breaths, and the girls stood by her side. "Chris, I apologize for breaking up our marriage. I apologize for not respecting you that night at this table, telling you what would happen. I was selfish and thought only of myself. I should have known that few men would agree with what I said. I should have seen how it would derail your reaction, thinking you just had to accept it was stupid and wrong. I apologize for prioritizing my job over our family and for missing so much. In the period following our separation, I have come to recognize that the circumstances that have transpired were a direct result of my actions and decisions. I am not resentful of your relationship with Josie, however, I am distressed by the knowledge that you are planning to marry her. Despite this, I wish you both a future filled with joy and fulfillment. I hope that Josie will prove to be a more supportive and understanding spouse than I was. And I am grateful to have had the opportunity to serve as your mother and companion. I extend my sincerest apologies for my shortcomings and for the manner in which I departed. I was aware that my actions would cause you distress and pain, yet I was unable to foresee the extent of the damage caused by my decisions. I recognize that I made a multitude of misguided choices, and I am deeply sorry for the anguish and heartache I have caused you. I acknowledge that your mother made a series of unfortunate decisions, and I take full responsibility for the consequences of my actions. I hope you can find solace in the knowledge that I am here to support you and that I am committed to making amends. I experienced feelings of pain and shame. I began to recognize the extent of the distress I had caused your father. Despite this, I have never ceased to love you. I have missed you frequently, particularly when I returned home late during my time living here. I miss you daily now that I am unable to see you. I can assure you that I will always love you. Be a good mother and be available when you need me. It is time to prioritize my daughters again, and everything else can wait. Erica shed tears once more as she put down the letter to hug our daughters. They were old enough to understand some of what their mother was saying. Josie needed to wipe her eyes. Her eyes were clear and unwavering. Despite her composure, I could see the difficulty this was for Erica. I admired her honesty and acceptance of responsibility. It had taken her a long time to reach this point. Many people would not take this step, instead blaming others for what went wrong. Chris, I can promise you that I will work with you to care for our daughters. Everything I do will be for their benefit. I will not ask for more time with them. I believe they should stay in this house with you. I know Josie will be an excellent stepmother. I can see it. It is evident that my daughters already adore and admire her. Aside from our girls, my only other goal is to recuperate. I am hopeful that one day you will utter the words I need to hear, I forgive you. She paused and looked at Josie, then at our girls, before her gaze met mine across the room. Table, I wish to reiterate that I still love you and will never stop. However, I am aware that you are currently in love with someone else, which I accept as an entirely valid state of affairs. I am saying this because I am aware that I made mistakes. My poor decisions caused you to love someone else, which has caused me considerable pain. However, it has also taught me a great deal. I will conclude by wishing the girls. And now, Josie, you have my full support, and I wish you and Erica a happy life together. Erica, she placed the letter down and pushed it towards me. Josie got up and hugged Erica. I stood and went to our room, returning with the old letter. Erica left before I threw away that letter, informing me that I would keep this new one. She said thank you quietly. 2 weeks later, Josie and I married in a simple park wedding, surrounded by our friends and family. Josie believed that inviting Erica would help her move on. I was initially uncertain, but our daughters wanted their mother. I promptly extended an invitation to Erica, who promptly accepted. Chris, you are already aware that I utilized the contraceptive pill. Josie spoke softly during our inaugural dance. I observe you taking it each morning. I would like to cease taking it during our honeymoon. Do you wish to begin attempting to conceive a child? I am not inclined to delay our expansion of the family for an extended period. I appreciate your assertion that we should focus on expansion rather than starting. Chris, I have acquired stepdaughters. Since I relocated, I have treated them as if they were my own. They believe they have 2 mothers. They may soon refer to you by a different designation. She spoke softly. Soon, I'd be thrilled if they did. On the night after her marriage, she and her new husband fell in love for the first time as a married couple. They agreed that behaving in a silly and inebriated manner at the park party was not a prudent decision. From the beginning of their relationship, they had enjoyed a wonderful love life. Having them close on their wedding night felt ideal. Erica came to their residence 2 days later to care for their daughters. She stayed in the guest room for a week while Josie and her husband spent the week on a sunny island. Their time was spent in the sun, sea, and sand, and they remained close. Josie made her husband laugh when she showed him a pill pack. After discarding the item in question in the nearest receptacle for refuse, we proceeded to pack for our impending excursion. Upon our return a week later, we exhibited a slight tan and broad smiles, feeling even closer. The week was relaxing and enjoyable, and focusing on ourselves was the optimal way to begin. 2 months after my return home, I discovered that Josie was expecting our child. We informed the girls first, and they were overjoyed at the prospect of a new sibling, after 10 years and 2 children. I still find my wife as attractive as when we first met. Despite the passage of time, we remain youthful. She is like a fine wine, improving with age. I have also attempted to maintain my appearance. My appearance underwent a transformation when my hair began to thin. Josie proposed that I shave it off, and she now adores my bald head, kissing it frequently. Even Erica concurs that it is aesthetically pleasing with my short beard. Our marriage is relatively harmonious, despite the occasional discord. Even when we diverge in opinion, we conclude our interactions with a hug and kiss, ensuring that we never go to bed angry. While our passion may not be as intense as it once was, our bedroom is far from quiet. Josie still desires me, and I am unable to get enough of her. Amelia and Annabelle are on the cusp of graduating from high school, and I informed them that they could remain at home for as long as they wished. Josie and I had 2 children together, a boy named Mark and a girl named Michaela. Mark exhibits characteristics similar to mine and enjoys engaging in activities typically associated with boys. He has expressed interest in pursuing careers in rugby or racing cars. However, he also displays intellectual aptitude, suggesting he may ultimately pursue a career similar to mine. Michaela is widely admired for her cheerful demeanor and is adored by all, including her elder sisters. Erica remains close to our daughters, Mark and Michaela, and is regarded as an authority figure within the family. The friendship between her and Josie has been rekindled, and Claire has returned to her life following some difficult conversations. They are now best friends again. It took some time, and I attended therapy both alone and with Erica, but I eventually let go of the hurt. I had not hated her in a long time, but holding on to the pain prevented me from moving on completely. I let her off because it was the right and kind thing to do after she sent the note. She earned my permission to move on. We are not friends, but it is fine. I am currently able to socialize with her. While I do not anticipate that we will ever be as close as we were before, when she stops by to see the girls or Josie, we are able to interact without any issues. I am comfortable with physical contact, including hugs. I wonder what my life would have been like if my circumstances had been different. On the night in question, when Erica and I had a lengthy conversation, I made the decision to pursue the path I am currently on. However, I do not consider this a significant change, given that I am Josie's other mother. On a positive note, I am fortunate to have a reliable ally in her, who is similarly supportive of me. We have a strong network of friends and a favorable outlook on life. I am grateful for these circumstances and would not trade them for anything. I appreciate your attention to today's narrative. If you found it engaging, I kindly request that you express your approval by liking and subscribing to my content. Your feedback is also valuable to me. Please feel free to leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts on the subject matter.